Video 108. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna go straight into it. I'm gonna do straight the slides, the presentation that I said. It should take about the same 15 minutes. And yeah, I guess we'll go through the feedback and stuff. It's been a work in progress. I've done it a couple of times today. I think it'll describe W spec pretty well, but it can definitely be improved, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm just gonna go directly into the slideshow to my screen. You could see that. And I'll just begin by saying, hey, my name is Morty Freeman. I represent WSpec, or the World Space Elevator Competitions. We're a global nonprofit organization on a mission to accelerate the creation of a space elevator, which would change how space is accessed, and fundamentally changing how we think of using space and Earth and connecting the two. We're building this global movement around this shared purpose, pushing technology to its limits and driving progress all around. What is a space elevator? So very simply, it's a tether stretching around 100,000 kilometers from Earth to space, held taut by the planet's centrifugal force. So it's using gravity, or the same force that sticks clothing to the edge of a washing machine, to keep it stretched out. Robotic climbers would then be able to travel up and down this tether and transport cargo and eventually people directly to geosynchronous orbit, which is really high, that's where it matches up with Earth, or beyond, right? It can launch, it can slingshot stuff into deeper space consistently, right? So it really proves this long economic value, but we can get into that later. Which would again fundamentally change everything we know about how we use space, right? So I guess the first question you can ask is, why do we need another way? Right? We have rockets, they're really cool, constantly getting advanced. Right now, while I'm speaking about this, I'm watching the next Starship launch live. Right? But the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to build a true Earth space circular economy, to really have this economy that allows us to connect both Earth and space together and work together and have everything going. And to do that, we basically need to figure out how to save energy and increase our efficiency. Right? Basically, just figure out how to use less for more. Right? How do we get the least amount of stuff to be able to be used to get the most value out of it? Right? Because right now, those levels are not going to balance out. Now, to do this, we need three main things. We need continuous regular access to allow economies of scale to start. We need renewable clean energy usage, okay, for sustainability in the long run. And we need to dramatically lower the costs for obvious reasons. Right? Now, rockets are great, and they're these incredible machines, but they do have some built-in limitations. Right? They can only scale so much. And that's because of the rocket equation. Right? Ultimately, the bigger a rocket gets, the more payload you want to bring up, the exponentially larger the rocket itself needs to get. Right? They're very inefficient because of that too. Right? They become expensive because it's very difficult to get past the complexity. It's not efficient. Right? Over 90% of a rocket's mass ends up being its fuel, which is just a potentially waste of resources. Right? It's just not necessary to use the resources that way. Not that they're rare or anything like that, but we shouldn't just be wasting it. Right? And then again, there's very tight launch windows and heavily reliant on weather, which makes it really difficult to turn this into a routine and continuous access. And they also create significant emissions, which again, even if it's not terrible for the environment, and as we see, we'll learn, but it's still releasing things. Why are we putting things in the environment that shouldn't be there? Or that are not there naturally, right? Unless we have a reason for it. So again, if we don't need to, why are we? So Space Elevator basically answers these problems, right? It allows us to still access space, to still get there, and expand without needing this. So it drops the cost. Right? It'll eventually be comparable to international shipping, the ability to scale and not expend its own mass. So we can just improve on what we have. It also creates the ability to continuously operate to a very specific point in orbit. So we're not launching things, we're not meeting orbits, we're actually sending things to a direct location. Right? We make an actual hub in space. And could run on totally renewable clean energy, right? Which is crucial for sustainability and keeping this thing going in the long run. Well, a space elevator is how we create this routine, systematic way to move large amounts of mass to and from space. Right? Now, rockets are these extremely cool and impressive machines, and by all means, they definitely should keep getting advanced and move further. But a space elevator is that rough, ugly infrastructure that we need for a true Earth-based circular economy. Right? So again, we established the value, we established the need of needing a space elevator and needing something like this to really scale Earth up to the next level. The question now is, why don't we have one yet? right? Why doesn't this exist yet? It comes down to this technology gap that we need to close. The concept itself is sound and it's constantly being improved on, but we're still missing some of the key technologies that are needed. But the thing is, the technologies that we need for a space elevator also have many direct benefits to people living on Earth right now. In fields like remote infrastructure and energy, power beaming or communications, robotics, right? The further robotics get, the less humans need to do. Infrastructure, civil engineering, right? Those are constant discovery and advancement. We're constantly trying to get better at those stuff. And material science, right? New materials offer new opportunities for everyone. Again, these are all world-changing technologies that are each constantly being developed further in their own right and independently, but there's no concerted global effort directing all of this to this one shared goal of a space elevator. And that's where WSPEC comes in. So WSPEC, as an organization, we host STEAM competitions that challenge university and enthusiast teams to design, build, and test these core technologies, constantly advancing each of these fields further and building the step-by-step advancement to get us to a functional space elevator. We're built on a collaboration of the established pioneers in the field, BAR of the TUM in Germany, the JSEA, or the Japan Space Elevator Association, Etheria, which is a private company working on the space elevator, and ISEC, or ICC, the International Space Elevator Consortium. All of us got together, created this organization, right? So the question you might have, right, is why competitions? Why are we doing it this way? Now, how is a competition superior to a traditional R&D effort for a challenge like this at this scale? There are four main reasons for that. Number one is the parallel innovation. Competitions allow for many different paths rather than just making a single large bet on one approach. Right? It functions like an entire portfolio of bets, similar to venture capitalism, right? With multiple teams trying many different solutions all at the same time. And ultimately, it allows all of us to see what does and doesn't work. This type of variety is the best strategy for finding a breakthrough because we really have the most results and the most options to look through. Right? The X Prize is a historical example of this type of model, working with competitions with the private space industry. Next is it design evolution, right? It ends up creating a really fair contest where the best ideas win, regardless of where they come from. If it comes from a university or a small private team, it forces the design to actually be proven in the real world, and then it allows the best options, right, the most effective ones, to establish that clear path forward for everyone else. And that kind of leads us to the next one, which is accelerated iteration, because the nature of competitions is that you constantly raise the bar for everyone involved. If one team has a breakthrough, it becomes that new baseline for the next cycle. Right? So something that was innovative last year becomes the new starting point for this year, which forces the entire community to keep getting better faster. Right? It basically creates a cycle where progress keeps scaling up year after year. So we're exponentially growing. And finally, the inspiration engine. Right? A competition is a very visible public platform and it captures the imagination, captures people's attention. Having a competition like this acts as a magnet that inspires and draws new talent in. It keeps new, novel ideas coming and serves as that focal point for the progress. Right? This ensures that the project can keep being sustained, constantly developing further as we move along. So we understand the competition model is a powerful framework for a project of this scale with this many unknowns. Right? It enables that deliberate step-by-step advancement where every single new development is guided by what happened in the past, right? Our previous results. Now, ultimately, a space elevator on Earth is an unknown right now, which is why it's so important to make sure that the technologies that we're advancing can help the world regardless, which is a major focus for us as an organization to make sure, again, that we are constantly advancing and improving the world for the better. Now, ultimately, a space elevator on Earth is an unknown right now, which is why it's so important that we do this like this, right? Um, Now, our current competitions that we have are in the two key foundational areas. We have the tether climber competition, where teams build robotic climbers to ascend and descend a vertical tether while carrying a payload. Right? Again, and this does both things. It both advances the fields of robotics in general and also simulates the key function of a space elevator, which allows for more creative development around the overall design of the concept. It goes to the power beam competition, and this new competition challenges teams to transmit power wirelessly over a short distance with a focus on efficiency, which is again is a critical technology for both in space and on Earth applications for things like powering remote regions or disaster relief zones, and of course the eventual space elevator, which will have very strict mass limitations for its efficiency. So this ends up creating a win-win ecosystem for everyone involved. Right? For teams, it becomes a launch pad for careers. It offers this deep technical skills and real-world experiences, which end up becoming a launch pad for these future startups and spin-off technologies, and creates careers in the space industry. For universities, it becomes a testbed for applied research and experiments. It becomes a real hub where there's international cross-border collaboration and a place to experiment. For sponsors, it becomes about brand alignment, right? It's a forward-thinking, innovative ecosystem and allows us direct access to this top-tier engineering talent with proven real-world experience from these competitions. Right? It's an opportunity for early scouting and, again, positive brand alignment with this world-changing innovation. And for the global community, this is for everyone else. We inspire STEAM interest and drive advancement, and we model how these multi-generational projects could be tackled. We're building an international network that's dedicated to this continuous advancement and continuous innovation in a real community just proactively pushing the limits of what's possible. The concept as a whole is not new. We're building on a proven legacy already. Just a brief history of 2005 to 2009. They were held as part of NASA Centennial Challenges to develop technologies for both material strength and power beaming. From 2009 through current, they were hosted by the JSEA as spec competitions for university students, build these climbers and simulate a functional space elevator. That's who we're having a joint competition with in November. In 2011, VAR in Germany joined the ranks and also started hosting their own competitions in Europe for, again, the same sort of purpose. So WSPEC as an organization, we're coming together and uniting all these efforts for the first time. We're getting one single umbrella to accelerate progress and get all this development moving further. Now, for this to work in the long term, we need to become a self-sufficient organization. Right? We need to be able to bring in more usable value than we're consuming to function. Our roadmap for the next few years is this year, which is the first year, is our foundation demonstration year. We launched a demonstration event and outreach, starting to recruit teams and establishing the initial partners, collaborators. Such as we had a table at the ISDC conference. We're having the competition, like I mentioned, in November in Japan for us to learn and grow from that experience. Where we have, we've launched our social media, our website, all these public things, and again, multiple more fundraisers and events. Year two, which is 2026, that's the next year, is our first full-scale competition. We're going to host the first international competition with our standardized rules and really expand our global reach and partnerships. And we're going to essentially prove that we can do what we say we can. Right? And by doing that, we'll refine our approach, we'll get better through the feedback and again, the experience that we're going to learn and we're going to get by doing it. And then years 3 and beyond, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to be a recurring multi-category global event, introducing new challenge tasks, tracks with new technologies that are needed for the space elevator. But again, with that practical application, right? We're thinking motor design, material strength, and in-space tether deployment, technologies like that. Again, also going to increase the prize money and attract more participation and entries. And we're going to continue to attract this top talent and partnerships. Again, and all of this while continuously bringing us step by step closer to a functional Earth space elevator. Now, as a nonprofit, our aim is transparency and openness. Hosting a competition, especially at a global level, costs money. Our planned operating budget for the fiscal year 2026, so our first full operational year, is $610,000. Of that, the largest portion goes directly to program delivery. That's going to cover the actual hosting of the competitions, all the equipment, prizes, functioning like that. Around 30% is for management and admin costs to cover the operational and personnel costs of a global organization. And about 20% is for fundraising and outreach, which enables our growth and allows us to reach more students and sponsors, overall just growing our community. So your investment into our company does more than just fund an event, right? It really empowers an ecosystem of talent, technology, and global collaboration. Our team's diversity is our strongest strength. We're bringing together experts from around the world for unique perspectives and experiences. This includes, and these are just people we mentioned here, it's myself, the CEO, Julian Sangstrancer, a Chief Operating Officer, previous chair on VAR in Germany, Dr. Bradley Edwards, our Chief Technology Officer. He developed the modern space elevator concept for NASA. Shuichi Ono, our Chief Development Officer and current president of the JSEA, and Melina Serbanova, our expert digital social media specialist, and she made this amazing presentation. So we have a continuously growing team with more members and volunteers, all aligning on this shared mission to accelerate our breakthrough technologies through global focused competitions. If you're interested, again, check out our website. Now, we're looking for partners overall in many different ways, right? To advance, who are motivated to advance the future and who see this long-term impact to change the world one step at a time. I invite you to join us in building the world's most ambitious engineering challenge. This is a real win-win situation for you, for everyone, right? Like I said, you can, as a student, you get the chance to prove yourself and launch your career in the space industry. As a university, this is a chance to really apply your research in a global environment. And as a sponsor, you get great brand recognition and access to this top-tier talent. Right? And again, all of this while pushing advancement in world-changing technology and really encouraging the global collaboration. Now, the future of the space elevator does rely on breakthroughs. And while we can't predict exactly when they'll come, we know that we can get more of the world's brightest minds to work on the problems right now and ultimately accelerate those breakthroughs. Although the elevator is the dream that we're working toward, the technologies that we're creating have real world value for all of us today. Join us and help us build the community working on the tech that gets us there, because together we can accomplish even greater things. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you. So that's that. I think it's pretty okay. I can definitely work a little bit harder on it, but that's going to be the progress. I think this is a good update though from the previous one, and hope you enjoyed.